He'd wanted her for years but stayed silent out of loyalty. Now she was just upstairs, and the water wasn't the only thing running hot. Lisa stood frozen in the hallway of her new apartment building. Grocery bags hanging from both arms, staring at the man walking toward her. She blinked twice, hoping her eyes were playing tricks on her, but no. It was really him, Jake, her ex-boyfriend's best friend. The same Jake she hadn't seen in 3 whole years, not since that terrible night when everything fell apart with David. Lisa? No way. What are you doing here? Jake's face showed the same shock she felt. I just moved in. Apartment 2B. Last week. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Jake ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from years ago. You're kidding. I'm in 3B. Right above you. Of all the apartment buildings in the city, of all the possible neighbors, fate had decided to plant Jake directly upstairs. The universe clearly had a sense of humor. They stood there awkwardly for a moment before Jake offered to help with her groceries. Walking into her apartment together felt strange, like stepping back in time but everything being different at the same time. They ended up talking for 2 hours over coffee. Jake told her about his job at the marketing firm, how he'd been living in the building for a year. Lisa shared stories about her new position at the design studio. Neither mentioned David at first, dancing around the elephant in the room. Finally, Jake brought it up. Look, I know things ended badly between you and David. And I know he basically made everyone choose sides. I'm sorry I didn't reach out. He was my best friend since high school, and I felt stuck in the middle. Lisa nodded, appreciating his honesty. It's okay. That whole situation was a mess. I don't blame you for staying out of it. For what it's worth, David and I aren't as close anymore either. People grow apart, you know? Something about his words made Lisa relax. Maybe this didn't have to be weird. Maybe they could actually be friends. Just neighbors who happened to know each other from before. A few days later, Jake knocked on her door, looking frustrated. Hey, weird favor to ask. My bathroom is being completely renovated. They're tearing out everything. The contractor said it'll take at least a week, maybe more. Is there any chance I could use your shower? I'll make it worth your while. I promise. I can pay you, or buy groceries, or whatever you need. Lisa hesitated. Having Jake in her apartment every day felt like inviting complication into her carefully organized life. But he looked genuinely stressed. And they were neighbors now. What kind of person would she be if she said no? You don't have to pay me. Just don't use all my hot water, she said with a small smile. You're a lifesaver. Seriously. Thank you. The first morning Jake came down to shower. Everything felt formal and polite. He brought his own towel. Was in and out in 15 minutes. Thanked her repeatedly. But by the 3rd day, something shifted. He started arriving with fresh bagels for breakfast. They'd have coffee together before work. He'd tell her funny stories about his coworkers, and she'd share office gossip from the design studio. Lisa found herself looking forward to those morning conversations. Jake was easy to talk to. Always had been. She remembered now why she'd liked him back when she was dating David. He listened when people spoke. Really listened. He asked questions about her design projects and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. David had never been like that. David had always been more concerned with his own stories, his own achievements. One evening, Lisa was folding laundry in her living room when she heard her shower turn on. She'd told Jake he could come down any time since she gave him a spare key. But hearing him in her apartment while she was home felt different than the morning routine, more intimate somehow. She tried to focus on matching socks, but her mind kept wandering. She could hear the water running, could imagine the steam filling her bathroom. Stop it, she told herself. This is Jake. Your ex's best friend. Just a neighbor, doing you a favor. But when he emerged 20 minutes later, hair damp and wearing a soft gray t-shirt, something in her chest tightened. He smiled at her. That easy smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Sorry, I hope it's okay I came by tonight. Had a really long day and desperately needed a shower. It's fine, that's what the spare key is for. He noticed her laundry basket. Need help folding? Before she could say no, he was sitting on her couch, folding her towels with surprising precision. They fell into conversation about their days, about a movie they both wanted to see, about the weird neighbor on the first floor who collected garden gnomes. It felt natural, comfortable. Like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. When Jake finally left to go back upstairs, Lisa sat alone in her quiet apartment and realized something had changed. The air felt different when he was around. Charged somehow. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the feeling. She was reading too much into simple kindness. Jake was just being friendly. That's all this was. But late that night, lying in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at her when he said goodnight. Like he was about to say something else but changed his mind at the last second. The next morning, Jake didn't show up for his usual shower time. Lisa found herself checking the clock, wondering if something was wrong. By 10 o'clock, she felt silly for worrying. He was a grown man with his own life. He didn't owe her a schedule. Around noon, her phone buzzed with a text. "Hey, I hope it's cool, but I'm going to use the gym shower for the next few days. Don't want to overstay my welcome." Lisa stared at the message, reading between the lines. He was pulling back, creating distance. Part of her felt relieved. The other part, the part she didn't want to acknowledge, felt disappointed. She typed back a casual response saying it was totally fine, no problem at all. But it wasn't fine. Her mornings felt empty without their coffee chats. Her apartment felt too quiet. She caught herself listening for his footsteps upstairs. A habit she'd developed without realizing it. This was ridiculous. She barely knew him, not really. Sure, they'd been friendly years ago when she was with David. But that was different. That was group hangouts and party small talk. This past week had been something else entirely. 3 days passed. Lisa threw herself into work, staying late at the studio, taking on extra projects. Anything to stop thinking about Jake and why his absence bothered her so much. On the third evening, she was carrying takeout up the stairs when she literally bumped into him in the hallway. "Sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going," Jake said, steadying her elbow so her food container didn't fall. "It's okay. How's the gym shower situation working out?" "It's fine. Convenient." He wouldn't quite meet her eyes. They stood there in awkward silence, so different from the easy conversations they'd shared before. Lisa couldn't take it anymore. "Jake, did I do something wrong? You can be honest with me." His eyes finally met hers, and she saw conflict there. "No. You didn't do anything wrong. That's actually the problem. I don't understand." He glanced down the hallway, making sure they were alone. "Can we talk? Maybe in your apartment?" Lisa's heart started beating faster, but she nodded and unlocked her door. Jake followed her inside, and suddenly her apartment felt smaller with him in it. He stood by the window, looking out at the street below, gathering his thoughts. "I need to be honest with you about something," he finally said. "And this is probably going to make things weird, but I can't keep pretending." Lisa set her takeout on the counter, giving him her full attention. "Okay, when you and David first started dating, back in college, I was happy for him. David was my best friend, and you seemed great. But the more time we all spent together, the more I realized something. I was paying attention to you in a way that friends shouldn't. I'd look forward to group hangouts just because you'd be there. I'd remember little things you said, stupid details that didn't matter. And I felt terrible about it because you were with David." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected this confession. Jake continued, his words coming faster now. "I tried to push those feelings down. Told myself it was just a crush, that it would pass. And when you and David broke up, I thought maybe enough time would go by and I could reach out to you properly. But David was so angry, and he made it clear that staying friends with you meant losing him. So I chose him, even though I regretted it. Jake, I had no idea. How could you? I never said anything. I never would have while you were together. But now, having you right downstairs, spending mornings with you, being in your space, it all came rushing back. Stronger than before. Actually, and I realized I can't do the casual neighbor thing. It's too hard. Being close to you but not really, you know? Lisa processed his words, her mind racing. All those years ago, she'd been so focused on David and their failing relationship that she'd never noticed Jake's attention. But thinking back now, she remembered small moments, the way he'd always save her a seat at parties, how he'd ask her opinion on things when David wouldn't, the time he'd driven across town to jumpstart her car when David was too busy. Say something, Jake said quietly. Even if it's just to tell me I'm making this weird. You're not making it weird, Lisa heard herself say. Or maybe you are, but in a good way? I don't know. This past week, I've felt something too. I tried to ignore it because of David, because of history, because it seemed complicated. Jake turned to face her fully. And now I'm wondering why we're letting someone who's not even in our lives anymore control what we do. He stepped closer, and Lisa could see his chest rising and falling with nervous breaths. David's engaged now. Did you know that? To someone he met a year ago. He's moved on completely. I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. David was always good at moving forward. So why are we standing here worried about what he'd think? It was a good question. Lisa had spent 3 years trying to forget that entire chapter of her life. She'd dated other people, focused on her career, built a new version of herself, but maybe she'd also been running from possibilities, from feelings that scared her. I don't want you to shower at the gym, she said, the words surprising her as they came out. Jake's expression shifted, hope flickering across his face. No. I liked our morning coffee talks. I liked having you around. And if I'm being completely honest, I've been thinking about you way too much for someone who's supposed to be just a helpful neighbor. A slow smile spread across Jake's face. Yeah? They stood there, 2 feet apart. The air between them, humming with possibility. Lisa knew this moment mattered. Whatever happened next would change things. They couldn't go back to casual neighbors after this conversation. But looking at Jake, at the genuine warmth in his eyes, she realized she didn't want to go back. So what do we do now? She asked. I don't know. What do you want to do? Lisa thought about all the safe choices she'd made over the past 3 years. All the times she'd chosen comfort over risk. Maybe it was time to choose differently. I want you to come back for morning coffee. Just coffee? For now. Let's start there and see what happens. Jake nodded slowly. I can do that. Though fair warning, I'm probably going to be terrible at playing it cool. Lisa laughed, feeling some of the tension ease. Good. I'm tired of people playing it cool. The morning coffee routine resumed, but everything felt different now. Jake would arrive at 7:30, and they'd sit at Lisa's small kitchen table, knees almost touching in the cramped space. Conversations that had been easy before now carried an undercurrent of something more. Every glance felt loaded with meaning. Every accidental touch sent electricity through Lisa's body. They were trying to take things slow, but slow felt nearly impossible when attraction this strong existed between them. Lisa caught herself staring at Jake's hands while he talked, wondering what they'd feel like intertwined with hers. She'd lose track of conversations, too focused on the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. One morning, Jake showed up with paint on his t-shirt. Sorry, I look like a mess. Was touching up my living room before work. You paint your own apartment? That's impressive. It's just basic stuff. Though I'm terrible at cutting in around the edges. Always end up with paint where it shouldn't be. Lisa smiled. I could help if you want. I work with colors all day at the studio. Might as well put those skills to use. Really? You wouldn't mind? I'd like to see your place. You've been in mine every day for weeks. Only fair I see where you live. That evening, Lisa climbed the stairs to apartment 3B for the first time. Jake opened the door looking nervous, like he was worried she'd judge his space. But his apartment was nice, clean, minimalist, with good natural light. Very different from David's place, which had always been cluttered and chaotic. Stop comparing them, Lisa told herself. Jake isn't David. That's the whole point. They spent 2 hours painting his living room accent wall a deep blue color. Jake had been right about his cutting-in skills. He'd get paint on the ceiling, then try to wipe it off, making it worse. Lisa laughed and showed him the proper technique, standing close behind him, guiding his hand with the brush. She could feel the heat radiating off his body, smell his cologne mixed with paint fumes. "You're a much better teacher than YouTube tutorials," Jake said, glancing back at her. Their faces were inches apart. Lisa could feel her heartbeat in her throat. It would be so easy to close that distance, to finally find out what kissing him felt like. But something held her back. Fear, maybe. Or the ghost of David standing between them. Jake seemed to sense her hesitation. He turned back to the wall, creating space between them. They finished painting mostly in silence. The easy banter from before, replaced by tension neither knew how to break. When Lisa went back downstairs to her own apartment, she felt frustrated with herself. Why was she holding back? Jake had been clear about his feelings. She'd admitted she felt something too. What was stopping her from just going for it? The answer came to her as she lay in bed that night. She was scared. Scared that this thing between them was just proximity and nostalgia. Scared that if they acted on it, and it didn't work out, she'd lose him as a friend and neighbor. Scared that David's ghost would always be there, making things complicated. But she was also scared of the alternative, of playing it safe and wondering forever what might have been. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Thanks for helping tonight. Made the whole thing more fun. Also, I'm pretty sure I still have blue paint in my hair." Lisa smiled, typing back. "You definitely do. Saw it when you opened the door. Very artistic look. Should I keep it? Start a new trend?" "Absolutely. Blue hair is very in right now." They texted back and forth for another hour, the conversation flowing easier through screens than it had face-to-face earlier. Lisa wondered if Jake was feeling the same confusion she was, the same push and pull between wanting to rush forward and wanting to protect what they already had. The next few days followed a similar pattern. Morning coffee, long conversations, moments where they'd get close and then pull back. It was like they were dancing around each other, both wanting the same thing but neither willing to make the first move. Then Friday night happened. Lisa had been working late at the studio, fixing a client's last-minute changes. She got home around 10, exhausted and frustrated. As she climbed the stairs, she heard raised voices from Jake's apartment. She paused, recognizing the second voice. "David, you've got to be kidding me." "Lisa?" "My Lisa? She was never your Lisa, man. You broke up 3 years ago, because she couldn't handle my career taking off." She got jealous and insecure. Lisa's jaw clenched. That wasn't why they'd broken up at all. They'd broken up because David had cheated on her during a work trip and then tried to blame her for not being supportive enough. "That's not what happened and you know it." Jake's voice was firm. "Whatever. Point is, you're supposed to be my friend. There's a code. You don't date your best friend's ex. We're not dating. And even if we were, you lost the right to have an opinion about Lisa's life when you treated her like garbage. I knew it. I knew something was going on between you two even back then. Nothing was going on. I never acted on anything while you were together, but you wanted to. Admit it. You were waiting for us to break up." There was a pause. Lisa held her breath, pressed against the stairwell wall. "Yeah," Jake finally said. "I was interested in her. But I never did anything about it because of you. I stayed out of her life for 3 years because of you. But I'm done letting you control things. You moved on. You're engaged. Why do you even care? It's the principle. It's about loyalty." "Loyalty? You don't get to talk about loyalty. Not after everything." Lisa heard footsteps approaching the door. She quickly moved down the stairs, not wanting to be caught listening. But she wasn't fast enough. The door flew open, and David stood there, freezing when he saw her. "Perfect. Both of you in on this together. David, just leave." Jake appeared behind him, but David wasn't done. "You know what? You two deserve each other. Both of you sneaking around, pretending to be innocent." "We're not sneaking around," Lisa found her voice, anger rising. "And frankly, it's none of your business what I do, or who I spend time with. It is when you're trying to replace me with my best friend." "Replace you?" "David, I spent 3 years getting over you. Trust me. You've been replaced plenty of times. Jake isn't some rebound or substitute. He's actually a decent person, which is something you never quite managed to be." The words hung in the air. David's face went red, but he seemed to run out of steam. He pushed past Lisa on the stairs, muttering something under his breath as he left the building. Lisa stood there, shaking with adrenaline. Jake came out into the hallway, looking tired and sorry. "I'm so sorry." He showed up out of nowhere. "Someone told him we've been spending time together. You don't have to apologize for him." "I know, but this is exactly what I was worried about. The drama. The complications." Lisa climbed the 2 steps, separating them until they were eye level. "Do you care what David thinks?" "Not really, not anymore." "Then why are we letting him ruin this before it even starts?" Jake's eyes searched hers. "Is it starting? This thing between us? I think it started weeks ago. We've just been too scared to admit it." And then, finally, Jake reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His hand lingered on her cheek, and Lisa leaned into the touch. All the hesitation, all the careful distance they'd been maintaining, crumbled in that moment. "I don't want to be scared anymore," Jake whispered. "Me neither." When their lips met, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Lisa woke up the next morning in her own bed. But everything felt different. She could still feel Jake's goodnight kiss from hours before. The way he'd held her face so gently, like she was something precious. They'd stood in the hallway between their apartments, talking until 2 in the morning, unable to say goodbye. Her phone showed 3 texts from him, sent at various times through the night. "Couldn't sleep. Keep thinking about you. This is probably clingy, but I don't care. Good morning. Coffee at yours or mine today?" Lisa smiled, typing back. "Yours. Want to see the finished blue wall in daylight." Everything should have felt simple now that they'd finally admitted their feelings. But Lisa knew better. David's unexpected appearance had reminded her that their situation wasn't straightforward. They had shared history, mutual friends, complications that wouldn't disappear just because they wanted them to. When she got to Jake's apartment, he greeted her with coffee already made and a nervous energy she hadn't seen before. "So, I've been thinking," he said as they sat on his couch. "We should probably talk about how we want to handle this. The David situation, telling people, all of that. You want to keep it quiet?" Lisa tried to keep her voice neutral, but disappointment crept in. "No, that's not what I mean. The opposite, actually. I'm tired of hiding or worrying about what people think. But I wanted to check with you first. Make sure we're on the same page." Relief flooded through her. "I'm on the same page. I don't want to sneak around." "Good. Because some of our mutual friends are going to have opinions. And they're going to ask questions about when this started. If something was going on before, let them ask. We know the truth." Jake nodded, but concern still lined his face. "There's something else. My mom and David's mom are really close. They have lunch every week. This is going to be awkward for them too." Lisa hadn't thought about the extended implications. Jake's family had known her as David's girlfriend. They'd been at family barbecues together, holiday parties. Now she'd be dating Jake instead. It did seem messy when laid out like that. "Are you having second thoughts?" she asked quietly. "What?" "No, definitely not." Jake took her hand. "I just want you to know what we're walking into. I want us to be prepared." Over the next few days, they started telling people. Jake's coworker friend was surprised but supportive. Lisa's roommate from college said she'd always thought Jake was better for her anyway. But then came the harder conversations. One of David's cousins, who Lisa had stayed friendly with, called her sounding hurt. "I just feel like it's weird. You know? Like you're staying in the family but switching brothers. Except they're not brothers. But you know what I mean." Lisa tried to explain, but the words felt defensive even to her own ears. "Jake and I connected as people. It's not about David. But it kind of is, though. You wouldn't have met Jake without David." That logic bothered Lisa for days afterward. Was their connection real? Or was it built on the foundation of her old relationship? Would she have even noticed Jake if circumstances were different? She brought it up with Jake during one of their evening walks. The November air was getting colder, and they walked close together for warmth. Do you think we only like each other because of the history? Like proximity and shared memories? Jake was quiet for a moment. I've thought about that. And honestly, yeah, the history played a role in us meeting. But what I feel for you now has nothing to do with David or the past. I like how you explain design concepts with your hands flying everywhere. I like that you drink tea instead of coffee on Wednesdays, because you read somewhere it's healthier. I like your terrible jokes and how you apologize to furniture when you bump into it. Lisa laughed despite herself. I do not apologize to furniture. You absolutely do. I've witnessed it multiple times. Okay, maybe sometimes. My point is, I'm not falling for David's ex-girlfriend. I'm falling for Lisa. The person you are now. Today. Not some memory from 3 years ago. The word, falling, made Lisa's heart skip. They hadn't used the L word yet, hadn't defined exactly what they were, but hearing Jake say it, even in that casual way, felt significant. 2 weeks into their official relationship, Jake's mom called him. Lisa was at his apartment when it happened, and she could tell from his face that the conversation wasn't going well. Mom, it's really not your business. I know you're friends with Helen, but, no, I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Can we just talk about this later? When he hung up, Jake looked exhausted. She thinks I'm betraying David, says his mom is upset, and that I should think about family loyalty. That's not fair. You and David aren't even that close anymore. Try telling her that. She still sees us as those kids who grew up together. Lisa felt guilt creep in. She was causing problems between Jake and his family. Maybe we should slow down. Give people time to adjust. No, Jake's response was firm. I'm not letting other people's discomfort control my life. I wasted 3 years already doing that, but the pressure kept building. A week later, they ran into a group of old college friends at a restaurant. The conversation was stilted, awkward. People didn't know whether to acknowledge Lisa and Jake as a couple, or pretend not to notice. One friend pulled Jake aside, and Lisa saw them having what looked like an intense discussion. In the car afterward, Jake was quiet. What did he say to you? Lisa finally asked. Doesn't matter. Jake, he sighed. He said, I'm making a mistake. That the friend group is going to be weird now. That people are already choosing sides. Are they? Choosing sides? Some are. David's been apparently telling people his version of events, making it sound like we got together behind his back years ago. Anger flared in Lisa's chest. That's not true. I know it's not. You know it's not. But perception matters to people. They drove in silence for a while. Lisa watched the city lights blur past her window, feeling the weight of everyone's opinions pressing down on them. This was supposed to be the exciting new relationship phase. Instead, it felt like they were constantly defending themselves, constantly justifying their right to be together. Do you regret this? She asked quietly. Us? Jake pulled the car over, turning to face her fully. Lisa, look at me. I have never been more sure of anything. Yes. It's complicated. Yes. People have opinions. But you know what? I'd rather deal with complicated and be with you than have it be easy and be without you. You mean that? Every word. He reached over and took her hand. We just have to get through this rough patch. Eventually, people will get used to it. And the ones who don't, maybe they weren't really our friends to begin with. Lisa wanted to believe him. But sitting there in his car, watching him look at her with such certainty, she made a choice. She could let other people's doubt creep into her mind, or she could trust what she felt, and what she felt, when she was with Jake, was more real than anything she'd experienced in years. Okay, she said. We get through it together. Together, he agreed, leaning over to kiss her. 3 months into their relationship, things finally started to settle. The initial wave of opinions and judgments began to fade as people moved on to other gossip. Lisa and Jake developed their own routine, separate from anyone's expectations. Friday nights were movie nights at her place. Sundays, they explored new restaurants. Tuesday mornings, Jake would leave a coffee outside her door before she woke up. It was the small things that made Lisa realize she was truly in love with him. The way he'd automatically hand her his jacket when she got cold. How he remembered her complicated coffee order. The fact that he'd learned to recognize her stress levels just by her text messages and would show up with chocolate without being asked. One Saturday afternoon, they were painting another wall in Jake's apartment when her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Lisa, it's Helen, David's mom." Lisa's stomach dropped. Jake looked over, concern on his face. She put the phone on speaker. "Hi, Helen. I hope it's okay that I called. Got your number from Jake's mother. Listen, I wanted to apologize. I've been making this situation harder than it needs to be." "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." Helen sighed on the other end. "I know. I've been protective of David. Maybe too protective. But I had coffee with his fiancée yesterday, and she said something that made me think. She said David seems happier now than when he was with you. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you two just weren't right for each other." Lisa glanced at Jake, who was listening intently. Helen continued. "And then I thought about Jake. He's been different these past few months. Lighter somehow. More himself. And I realized I was so worried about David's feelings that I wasn't paying attention to Jake's happiness." "Thank you for saying that," Lisa managed to say. "David will be fine. He's moved on, even if he's not handling this maturely. But you and Jake, if you're happy, that's what matters. Life's too short to worry about what people think." After they hung up, Lisa felt something shift inside her. Helen's call didn't solve everything, but it helped. If Jake's mom's best friend could come around, maybe others would too. "That was unexpected," Jake said, pulling her into a hug. "Good. Unexpected. The best kind." That evening, they went to a party thrown by one of their mutual friends. Lisa felt nervous walking in, unsure how people would react to them as a couple. But to her surprise, most people were normal about it. Some were even enthusiastic. "Finally," one girl said, "you two make so much more sense together." Later in the night, Lisa found herself in the kitchen with a group of friends who'd known her and David. One of them, slightly drunk, brought up the elephant in the room. "Okay, I have to ask. Was there always something between you two? Because looking back, it kind of seems obvious." Lisa considered lying, making it simpler. But she was tired of managing everyone else's comfort. "Honestly, I didn't see it back then. But Jake did. He had feelings for me that he never acted on. And then when we reconnected, those feelings were still there. For both of us. This time." "That's actually kind of romantic," another friend said. "Like, he waited years." "I wasn't waiting." Jake appeared behind Lisa, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I was living my life. But yeah, when I got a second chance, I wasn't going to waste it." Walking home that night, Lisa felt lighter than she had in months. They'd faced the whispers, and the judgment, and the complicated history. And they'd come out the other side, still together. Still strong. "Can I tell you something?" Jake said as they reached their building. "Always. My lease is up next month." Lisa's heart sank. "You're moving?" "I'm thinking about it. Thinking about maybe moving downstairs. If you'd want that. If it's not too fast. You want to move in together?" "I basically already live at your place. My apartment is just where I keep my clothes at this point. But no pressure. If you need more time, I get it." Lisa thought about her apartment. How it had started to feel like their apartment. How Jake's toothbrush lived in her bathroom. How his favorite mug had a permanent spot in her cabinet. How leaving for work felt sad when he wasn't there. And coming home felt complete when he was. "I don't need more time," she said. "I need you to officially move in, so I can stop pretending that bookshelf is just for decoration, when we both know it's really yours." Jake laughed, picking her up and spinning her around in the hallway. "Is that a yes?" "That's a definitely yes." 4 weeks later, Jake gave up his apartment. They spent a weekend combining their lives into one space. His furniture mixed with hers, his books on her shelves, his clothes sharing her closet. It should have felt cramped, but instead, it felt right. Like pieces clicking into place. The first night living together officially, they sat on the couch eating pizza straight from the box. "So this is real life now," Lisa said. "No more good nights in the hallway." "Nope. Now you're stuck with me snoring and leaving socks everywhere." "You don't snore. Give it time. You might discover all sorts of annoying habits." Lisa leaned her head on his shoulder. "I doubt it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the TV playing something neither was really watching. Lisa thought about the journey that had brought them here. The unexpected reunion in the hallway. The shower favor that changed everything. The complications and judgments they'd faced. The choice to keep choosing each other despite everything. "Hey," Jake said softly. "I love you. I don't think I've actually said it out loud yet. But I do. I love you." Lisa turned to look at him. At this man who'd waited years, who'd fought for them, who'd made her believe in second chances and right timing, and the idea that sometimes the person you're looking for was there all along. "I love you too. So much." Jake kissed her, and it tasted like possibility, and pizza, and home. When they finally pulled apart, he was grinning. "What?" Lisa asked. "I was just thinking. If someone told me 3 years ago that I'd end up here, with you, living in this apartment, I wouldn't have believed it. Life's funny that way. The best kind of funny." Outside their window, the city hummed with life. Inside their apartment, Lisa and Jake built their own little world. One where past complications didn't matter as much as present happiness, where the right person showing up at the right time was less about fate and more about being brave enough to not walk away when it mattered. The shower still ran hot every evening. But now they stood in front of the mirror together, brushing their teeth and talking about their days. Now Jake's towel hung next to hers. Now coming home meant coming home to each other. It wasn't perfect. They still had moments of doubt, days when old insecurities crept in, but they'd learned to talk through them, to choose each other again and again. Love wasn't just the big dramatic moments. It was Tuesday morning coffee, and Sunday grocery shopping, and folding laundry together on the couch. It was knowing someone saw you at your worst and chose to stay anyway. It was building something real. Something that could withstand judgment and history, and all the messiness of actual life. 6 months later, when someone asked Lisa how she and Jake got together, she'd smile and say it was complicated. But the truth was simpler than that. They got together because when the moment came, when the choice was between walking away and taking a chance, they both chose to stay. And they kept choosing to stay. Every single day after that. Sometimes the right person was someone you'd known all along. Sometimes love required letting go of what other people thought and trusting what you felt. And sometimes, the shower running hot was just the beginning of something that would change everything. You just had to be brave enough not to walk away when your heart told you to stay.